Alright, so there are leapers in this room. And I do remember this, although they've changed the layout of this one to accommodate for the zero-G controls. Let's use the flamethrower again to take these guys out. Oh shit, there are goddamn lurkers. That's like the acid round stun on the hunters in Resident Evil 3 Remake. What the fuck am I stuck on? You see that? Something on the ground had an invisible hitbox on it, and I got stuck on it. Look again, it just... Look at this! What am I getting stuck on? You see that? There's something on the ground here. That's what I got stuck on, and I got hit. And you encounter very similar Look! Again! What is that? It's these kind of collision issues that you encounter all the time in Dead Space. Can't say I'm a big fan of this puzzle design. This just seems a little too silly. Not to mention, it's time-consuming. When you're having to work with zero gravity, when you're having to constantly reorient yourself. It's a pain in the ass. There we go, that should do it. Why does he look like a unitologist from Dead Space 3?
No. USM Valor, come in.
Oh, it's just one basic necromorph. It's not gonna be that much of a problem. Unless it's just gonna be like, oh, randomly a bunch of trained military soldiers are incapable of taking out a stupid necromorph. Dismembering the limbs. Wow. That's such a cliche in a lot of these old school survival horror games. You see, he's not flailing about. I took off his head. But it's also interesting that the Valor is being used, because we never had the Valor appear in Dead Space 1. Oh, this is where the Divider is introduced, but I'd rather not deal with him, because he has an absurd amount of life. For no reason. Luckily for me, his attack animations are pretty slow. Just like in Dead Space 1. Except he's turning on that access point, so I have to be very careful of that. Whoa! It really doesn't make any sense for Dividers to have an absurd amount of life. They're mostly flesh, it feels like, not exactly bone structures. That's the Leviathan Remnant. That's what I saw on the trophy list. And we're gonna be using the ADS cannons.
Entering zero gravity.
So if this guy's anything like the first guy, he'll unlock moves the more damage I do to him. Isaac, you do not sprint very fast sideways. Okay, so that was about 9 shots just then on that core.
Warning. ADS cannon destroyed.
I'm running low on oxygen, I gotta move fast. Was it dragging its tentacle, just like Salazar does? Oh, it's firing projectiles at me. Oh, you can't use kinesis while you're busy, like, trying to use the ADS cannons. Like, when they're in the middle of firing, you can't do anything. That's so stupid. So I think you have to use the ADS cannons to actually expose the core, and then you can unleash it with everything you've got. I'm running low on oxygen, I gotta be careful, and it's deploying something. What is that? Are those supposed to be depth charges like you see underwater? Alright, so I gotta be very careful of that. Oh god! Whoa!
Manual targeting enabled.
That tentacle's attacking. Oh shit!
Warning. ADS
Oh, destroyed the cannon, so I have no choice but to use the projectiles. Is that it? I don't. Yeah, that is it. I did get a trophy.
Is it dead?
Dead and gone.
Alright, that wasn't so bad. I thought that boss was gonna be even worse, but then again, like, there's all like the different moves that are happening. So yeah, it is a bit of a problem. I could definitely see that fight being very awkward because I was having to avoid a lot of different attacks. The tentacle attacks, the drag tentacle attacks, the projectiles the Leviathan was throwing, and then those depth charges.
Do you read?
They're all dead. From one single necromorph. Are you fucking kidding me? How the hell is that possible? That's retarded. That's really retarded.
Hey, they found your escape pod.
Why are you saying those things? It was just one single necromorph.
We're fucking out of here.
Huh, we never did that before in Dead Space 1. We're going to the Valor, because the Valor never existed. We never had to grab a singularity core.
We'll find that core together.
I think we got a singularity core from somewhere on the Ishimura. But not on a random ship that just came out of nowhere. Just because they heard the SOS beacon. But I think it's time I break the truth to you guys. I did already fight that boss. You see, like, I had already gotten to this chapter earlier on, and I was gonna use that for the blind playthrough. But then I wasn't satisfied with the commentary, because it was late, and so I was a little fatigued and tired, and so my commentary wasn't substantial, so that's why I deleted the previous parts, starting from hydroponics all the way to here. And I just resumed the recording. So everything you saw from after the Leviathan fight to now, all of this is the new recording. Yeah, but that's what I had to resort to. But what you just saw with that fight with the Leviathan Remnant, I had a really bad time with that fight. That was a terrible fight. Like some of the times where the hitboxes didn't make sense. The times where you're having to avoid so many different moves, like it was a real clusterfuck of a fight. It was pretty bad, but as you saw just then, when you take all that into account, it isn't so bad. But I did have a better method for doing that fight, so I would basically weaken the cores, but not destroy them. So I would weaken them until they were down to like 1 health. And so when I got to the third core, as I was busy shooting it with the ADS cannon, and the only attack I had to worry about was just the tentacle attack, I would maneuver my way over to the next core, and then when I destroyed the third core, I would destroy the second core very quickly, and then use my plasma cutter or the boss's projectiles to destroy the first core. So you do have to not rush this guy so much, so that you can actually deal with less moves in the process, but I decided to play it a little bit risky right there, and it did pay off in the end because I was able to take advantage of the boss's projectiles. But you can only take advantage of the boss's projectiles once the actual core is exposed. You have to expose the core using the ADS cannons. And where I feel right now with this boss, it does feel a little bit better than the generic shoot-em-up boss fight that was the case in the original Dead Space. So I think overall it's a pretty fun fight. Just on the first playthrough, it's going to be garbage if you don't know what you're doing. But that's just the thing. It feels like Dead Space is set up in such a way where the first playthrough is always a crippling experience until you actually realize what you're doing, and then it's slightly better. But you know, I think for what it's worth, that boss is one of the better bosses that Dead Space has introduced as a series. Because Dead Space is really shit at boss fights, although, like, some of the introductory bosses of Dead Space 2 were pretty good. Like, that very first tripod you fought in Dead Space 2 was well designed. Oh, it's a Twitcher. That's bullshit. Fuck that. Why was that a stun just then? Well, that was pretty bad. I'm gonna restart on that. So I also did encounter the Twitchers in my previous recording of this blind playthrough, and they are a very shit enemy. They're the worst enemy type in this game by far. Not only do they move incredibly fast, not only do they just teleport all over the place, but the flinch animation problems that are already present with the enemies are amplified even further by how much this enemy is able to rush you down. I don't really understand what the game expects you to do, but I think what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to stun them with the flamethrower. But how the hell are you supposed to deal with this enemy if you don't have flamethrower fuel? Let me actually see if this works. Yeah, so it does stun them. But that just seems very rigid in its implementation. I mean, it's a single Twitcher, and you're forced to use that kind of weapon against it. I mean, it's not like a special enemy type, it's just a generic necromorph, but it has the stasis module embedded into its flesh, allowing it to move incredibly fast. That's how it was in the original Dead Space. Although I think Twitchers did have increased health as well in the original Dead Space.
Isaac, we have a problem. The Valor's carrying a 12 megaton warhead.
I wonder if throwing objects at it will actually be effective. I mean, obviously the blade will help in actually stunning it, but I just wish other objects could stun it as well. Let me see if this kind of body can actually stun it. Okay, so it did stun it, but it's not stunned for long, so your ability to capitalize on the stun is very limited. And as you can see, Twitchers move incredibly fast, even when their legs are dismembered. And they can combo you as well, which I didn't know. But yeah, that's definitely one of the worst enemy types. And there are sequences later on where you encounter multiple of them. But I question why that makes them so fast. How exactly does that make them fast if they have stasis modules that slow down one's relative time field? How does that make them fast? I don't understand. That doesn't really make any sense. But by this point, guys, in my earlier recording, I was pretty burned out with the game.
I must speak with you.
Well, only because it was pretty late, but also because it really feels like the game drags out in certain parts. But here you have to destroy these. And there are needles on the ground. Like actual impalement devices on the ground that you can use to destroy these bombers that appear. So if you kill these enemies too soon before you disarm the warhead, they will blow up, and it will end the level. So you'll have to restart. But there's only 2 of these bombers, which is good. At least it's only 2 exploders. Yeah, but this is just such an out-of-place objective, just introduced out of the blue. And it ends very quickly, as if they were trying to just pad out the game. That's what it felt like when I was doing this entire sequence here. Now, oh. Oh, that's right, dividers aren't affected by fire for some reason. Wow, do you see the amount of times I missed that? And also, on this version of Dead Space, oh shit! Wow. But I was going to say, on this version of Dead Space, Twitchers are immune to stasis. They cannot be slowed down. That was not the case in Dead Space 1. Dead Space 1, you could use stasis to slow them down. Good thing there's a checkpoint here. But I don't understand how you can destroy the stasis module and it doesn't stop the Twitcher from just moving at light speed. Even when you destroy it, they still move fast. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's supposed to be the stasis module on them, isn't it? But do you see what I mean? Do you see how bullshit this enemy is? And without the proper flinch animations to balance them out, you have yourself a very broken enemy. This is probably one of the most broken enemies ever introduced in the entire Dead Space series. And this is really where the game starts to feel very trial and error, even more so than before. Maybe if you destroy the actual stasis module on them, then they're susceptible to stasis? It might be that. I'm not really sure, because they're just a bad enemy. Okay, so, yeah, now they're susceptible to stasis, now that their stasis module is destroyed. But they're not stunned for long, which is... Okay, I have no idea what I shot just then for that to happen. Oh my god, you see this, and they have a lot of life. But I don't really understand why Twitchers are able to be stunned by the flamethrower, yet other necromorphs can't. It doesn't make any sense, like the normal necromorph just walks through fire. Like, Leapers don't walk through fire, they get stunned. But with Twitchers, they get stunned as well by the flamethrower. Like, why is it so different with them, but not the normal necromorphs? Also, that's a habit that Twitchers have. They run away for some reason. I don't know why this is a behavior with the Twitchers. I don't remember them running away in the original Dead Space. But in this remake, there are times where they choose to run away. Also, I don't know if, Twitchers can actually grab you. I don't know if there's a grab animation specific to Twitchers. But I think that's probably what the game wants you to do. You're probably supposed to aim for the stasis pack just before they hit you. But of course, it's hard to capitalize on that when they recover too fast. I mean, there's no sense to how this enemy is designed. And it would be nice if the melee had utility against this enemy. Like, this kind of fast enemy, I could understand the melee being justified in stunning him, but it doesn't work very well. Let's go again. One more time. See, he runs away. What is the point of this behavior? I don't understand. There's no sense to it. He has no reason to run away. It's just for setting up some kind of cheap ambush to scare you out of your pants, basically, but it's not effective because this enemy's too bullshit and annoying. It's not even a scary enemy, it's just that. It's a very frustrating enemy to deal with, because it just breaks the rules of the game so much. And all it does is just amplify the poor designs of this game even more. I mean, the only thing I can think of for this sequence in particular is you're supposed to use the needle of this Twitcher that died against the next Twitcher that spawns. That's the only thing I can think of. But of course, that happens. And I cannot get through the laser grid fast enough. But it really feels like by this point the game is expecting you to have a lot of flamethrower ammo or pulse rifle ammo, but the pulse rifle is pretty useless against Twitchers because it's inconsistent if the mines actually stun the Twitchers or just the necromorphs in general. That's why the flamethrower is a lot more reliable. But I just think there are some really dumb justifications for everything. And see, like, they're really good at tracking you down as well. Like, the normal necromorphs, they don't turn on an access point in order to track you as you're moving past them when their legs are dismembered. But Twitchers can do that. And it can also combo as well. Like, this enemy type is so fucking broken. Like, this is definitely where the lacking quality really starts to show after Hydroponics. Hydroponics is where the game starts to die. And there's also no telling what kind of animation he does. And so aiming for the stasis module, it's random. It's random whether you're going to get it or not. And again, like, it's all set up in a way to make it feel trial and error on your first playthrough. Like, you have to prematurely know the enemy spawns if you're going to stand a chance. And that's just poor game design right there. That's like some new Capcom design. But as long as you move towards the arm that is dismembered, you won't get hit by this enemy so much when their leg is dismembered. But it still doesn't change how awkward it is. I mean, that just looked very silly, just the way I was doing that. And without the ability to use kinesis on objects to knock them over, especially in this room, because I don't really see any object I can use to knock this guy over, the Twitchers just have a very unfair advantage over you. But I can probably use, that, maybe? See? No flinch. Like, he's not flinching at all. Like, you can't rely on kinesis effectively in this game when it comes to these enemies. Like, Twitchers in the original Dead Space were better balanced. They move fast, but they always flinched when you shot them, because it makes sense with the plasma cutter, and with these fleshy enemies that are humanoid. Can you? No, you can't. I thought you could maybe throw these enemies, and it serves as like a portable stasis field, but it doesn't work. And he keeps grabbing the wrong object. See, it looks really stupid. That's definitely the worst enemy type in this game by far. And I have no idea what they were thinking when designing it. Oh yeah, and then there's this sequence right here. How the hell? I'm using the wrong weapon. Alright, the Twitchers should be spawning soon. Yeah, see? If I didn't have the flamethrower, I'd be fucked. I can understand that kind of justification with the flamethrower, because of course, it's multiple of these enemies. Obviously, with the number of enemies you'd be dealing with, you want to have, like, strong weapons like that, but it's just dumb. Oh, yeah, there's a Brood as well. And I don't have any plasma cutter ammo, so this is going to be problematic. Because the plasma cutter is the strongest weapon I have right now. No, he didn't like that one bit. strats I am having to resort to. I'm not hitting his weak spot properly. I did apparently take off his leg, somehow. I can use his projectiles against him now that his leg is dismembered. I don't know how I dismembered it, there's no possible way. What the hell? Yeah, but like, the way they've designed this guy now is just clunky. I mean, look how finicky his animations are, and also his projectile, it's very delayed when it comes out. I can't even tell if I hit him properly. And I just don't feel like that's doing anything. This is really stupid. They've honestly ruined the brutes in this game. The brutes in the original Dead Space games were way better. I mean, I do like, the idea that he takes, a little less damage this time around. At least when you're upgrading properly. But he's just not dying. Yeah, but this is taking too long. I need to think of something. Oh no, he was taking damage. It's just you could see that I was hitting his armored body part. So I thought I wasn't doing any damage, but apparently I was. At least I got more plastic cutter ammo this time around. Also, you do not want to disable the fire suppression. Actually, it didn't matter. Okay. So the enemies still spawn regardless, so... yeah, activating that. That was a pretty stupid sequence. I know they're trying to diversify the gameplay, but it should be better than that. So we know this is going to be the point where Hammond dies, because he died in a very similar fashion. This is so weird, like, I do not remember going into the USM Valor. But it really plays similarly to this, and wow. The way he says Chen no is so fucking cringe. It doesn't feel right. Like, it doesn't feel right, like synonymous with someone who's been stabbed or anything like that, or on the point of dying. Like, it's so fucking stupid.
What? Him and Vitals, they just flatlined.
Hammond's death is one of the most unceremonious deaths I've ever seen in all of gaming. That was so fucking stupid.
The Valor's gonna blow. Go!
And to be fair though, like, Hammond's end in Dead Space 1, the original, was very unceremonious as well, because he just dies from a brute. Yeah, you are being chased by Twitchers in this part, so you have to move. But also, I think as long as you stun them with the flamethrower... oh, shit! That was close. As long as you stun them with the flamethrower, they can't get through the door fast enough. That was one of the stupidest moments in my blind playthrough. Well, I mean, this is the blind playthrough, but like in my earlier recordings. Yeah, but overall, that entire Valor sequence, that was just... that was a waste of time. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with that, aside from getting a random singularity core. And yes, I understand they sent the SOS, but like, so many of the events just feel so unnecessary.
God
Yeah, but this game is not enjoyable whatsoever if you're going to be doing it on impossible difficulty. And you're going through it one save. Because the game just doesn't feel balanced enough to really make that engaging in the right sort of way. I mean, permadeath is just a concept that no game has ever done right, aside from Batman Arkham Origins. Because Batman Arkham Origins, you could play on New Game Plus, and then you could just restart the checkpoint if you're about to die, enjoy the game for what it is, and then when you wanted to restart entirely, you didn't have to go through New Game again, you just killed yourself, and you went right back to where you started when you first began I Am the Night mode. Which I think is perfect. But in a lot of these permadeath games, you just make the cutscenes unskippable. I mean, that's just what I've noticed. There hasn't been a single... I mean, like, then again, like, Last of Us, it's the case, but, I mean, Last of Us doesn't deserve a permadeath mode. It's a disgrace to, everything that makes up the foundations of The Last of Us's gameplay. And I just think it's insulting that developers treat their own, like, story-driven, narrative-driven game as just a game at that point. Just a simple game where all the cutscenes are going to be treated like loading screens. All the problems are going to be amplified even further on permadeath. It's just a waste of time. And you end up hating certain parts of the game that you loved because of the permadeath modification. Oh, shit. There's that stupid grab animation that's 100% bullshit. Visceral Games doesn't know how to do grab animations, it seems. Or Striking Distance Studios. Because, like, the grabs in the Callisto Protocol were horrendously designed, but you didn't have to deal with them if you had Auto QTE on, but they don't have Auto QTE in this game, so every single grab animation will damage you instantly. And there's no sense to how that's designed. They might as well just spam that move, and you have no chance of countering it. There was just no thought put into how that worked. So I guess I'm understanding the point of the clearance system. Because, like, remember in Dead Space 1, 2, and 3, there were always lockers you couldn't open for some reason. But now they've just done away with that, and they've made that the security clearance. So when your security clearance is high enough, you can just search these lockers now. So there's no more of those random lockers you can't open for some reason, because you're tied to security clearance. So I understand the point now.
How long will it take to install the singularity core on that shuttle?
Not long, if no one tries to stop me.